Today we're going to focus on circles. We want to be able to write an equation of a circle, and we want to be able to graph a circle, and we need to be able to find the center and the radius from the equation and use that information to graph the circle. So those are the items we're going to be focused on today. Just to begin with, to make sure that we understand what we're talking about. I know that you do, but if that's the center of my circle, let's say I draw that circle right there. Okay. This right here would be my radius. And this is my center. And so the radius represents what in the circle? Yeah, how far away what is from the outside? The center. So it represents the distance from the center to the edge of the circle, right? Or to the circle. Okay? So that's what the radius in the center is. We have a distance formula, which I'm not going to go through this. I just want to point it out. The distance formula looks like this. Remember this? x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And so that's what the distance formula looks like. We could say the radius then is going to equal, and we could plug all this in. And then when we square both sides, we end up with the radius squared is going to equal, and we end up with this formula. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared. Where this point right here that we call the center is labeled hk. And this point that's out here on the circle is just some xy. Okay? And so we could use the distance formula. We could go through the process of proving that we get this equation from the distance formula. The key here is this is the vertex form, or center form, standard form. I guess we'll call it standard form, not vertex. Standard form for an equation of a circle. Okay? Where hk is the center, and r is the radius. Okay? Where hk is the center and r is the radius. Now, the confusing part, sometimes people look at an equation and they just give me this number as my radius. Does that number that I've circled there, does that represent the radius? No, what does it represent? The radius squared. So whatever the radius squared is would be that number. So to find the radius, I'd have to do the square root of that number, right? And I caution you because I know somebody in here will do that at least once. Hopefully you'll do it in the homework. You realize, oops, I fell for it. He told me I would, I did. And then you won't make that mistake on the test. But unfortunately, that's not been the history of students over the life of my teaching career. Too many people still make that same mistake on the test. Oh. Guess I can't do that.
When we do that, do you want us to leave it in simplest form, or do you want us to put the decimal?
Simplest form almost always. unless they ask you to round to a certain place, we almost always leave it in simplest form, simplest radical form. That's what you meant, right? Yeah. Now leave it in simplest radical form, unless they tell you specifically otherwise. Okay? All right. That's all the notes. I'm going to do a couple examples with you. I'm going to do them as quickly as we can so that you'll have all class period to work on yesterday's and today's and get caught up. But as far as new stuff, that's it. Okay? You need to know this formula, and you need to know what the center and the radius mean, which you already knew that, but we just had to talk about it again. And then you need to know how to get the information into this here, okay? So, let's take one similar to their first example. They said, write an equation of a circle with center -4, 3, and a radius of 4. And so let's do that with, I'm going to make up a different one. Let's say my circle has a center of 0, -3, and a radius, let's say equal to 7. We want to write an equation of that circle, okay? So until you no longer have to look it up, I suggest you write the formula down each time you use it. If you have to look at the previous problem, if you have to look at your notes to see what the formula was, then you don't know it well enough yet. And this is going to be a fast chapter, okay? And so we don't want to get on the test day and say, oh crap, I don't remember these formulas. So write it down. What was the formula?
R squared equals
R squared equals
parentheses x minus h squared plus y minus a squared.
okay? There's my formula. What's H stand for?
The first point.
What part of the center? The x coordinate, right? The x coordinate of the center. So what is that in this case? 0. So x minus 0. What's the k stand for? It's -3. It stands for the what?
Y value.
The y part of the center, which in this case is -3. So that minus becomes a plus. So notice we have to use the opposite in the formula of the center, right? They're both opposites. And then r is 7, so this is 7 squared. So if we clean it up, we get 49 is equal to x squared plus y plus 3 squared. You agree with that?
But it's going to be 9, subtracting 9 is 4.
It's going to be what?
Don't you do your 3
No. No. She's saying, do I square this? But if I square this, I don't get y squared plus 9.
You get y
Right.
squared plus 6 plus 9 plus 6.
Y squared plus 6y plus 9, right? When you square a binomial, you always get 3 terms. Okay? I'd have to get 3 terms. The first one squared and the last one squared, I agree with that. But the middle term is the first times the second times 2. So it'd be 6y. And since that's a plus, these are both pluses.
The only time you don't have a middle term is when it's the difference of 2 squares, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And if I'm multiplying 2 binomials that aren't similar, like if I had x plus y times a minus b, I mean they aren't like terms, are they, any part of them? So I'm going to end up with 4 terms there.
Yeah.
But any other time, anytime I square something, I don't get different sets like that. So, oh, come on. So anyway, I don't want to do this, okay? It's not helpful to do that. So I want to leave it the way it was. I want to leave it in the standard form. Okay? And you don't have to show the minus 0. Since x minus 0 is x, just leave it as x. Okay? Any questions on that? This is my equation. You want me to write the equation? That's it. Bethany?
So if that number wasn't 0, like if it was a 2 or something, would you just leave it the same way you left it?
Yeah, it'd be x minus 2 squared.
So basically, you just plug the numbers in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we ever have to solve these answers?
No. No, not like this. Now, in a few minutes, we're going to do one where we have one that's not in standard form, and we want to write it in standard form so that we know where the center and stuff is. But if they give me the center and the radius, they want the equation, I'm just going to plug it in and simplify it. Okay? Just clean it up. I should say clean it up. Don't multiply it out and expand it. Just if there's a 0 in there, clean that up and clean up your 7 squared, call it 49. Okay, little things like that. Okay? Okay. So write the equation of, I'm looking at the second example there. Write the equation of the translation. What's translation mean? Slide, yeah? Did I hear somebody say that, I hope?
Yeah.
Translation means slide. So we take the object and we slide it around onto the coordinate plane. X squared plus y squared equals 4. 7 units left and 3 units up. Okay? So we want to translate the equation x squared plus y squared equals 4. 7 units left and 3 units up. Okay? Now, if I wanted to graph this, what they're saying is, I want to move this circle from here, 7 units left, and 3 units up, and put it over there somewhere. And then I want the equation of that. Okay? So if I did that, first of all, what's my center in this one? 0, 0. That's correct. This center is 0, 0. And you'll notice my x minus and y minus, there's nothing there. It's just x and y, right? So it's x minus 0 squared and y minus 0 squared. So my center is 0, 0. So if I move it 7 units left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 3 units up, one, two, three. Then my new center would be right there, wouldn't it? What's the coordinates of that center?
-7, 3.
-7, 3.
And you just plug those into the.
And so if I go back to my model, which was r squared equals
X minus h squared plus y minus k squared.
okay, then -7 goes where?
And place a h.
So this becomes
X plus 7 squared.
and my 3 goes y minus 3. And what goes out here?
4.
4 or 4 squared?
4 squared. Yeah, 4 squared and then
4.
4, right?
Because that's already squared.
Yeah, this is already r squared, isn't it? And I want the same radius. So what was r in this? 2. And you notice when I do the circle, my radius is only 2? We can talk about it, I just did it, right? My radius is 2. I took the square root of 4, and that's how I knew how far to make my radius. Okay? And so, my new circle didn't draw it perfect, but it looks something like that. What's that? Yeah. Yeah. This here is a -7, so when I put that in, minus a negative becomes +7. Okay? Good, yes.
How do you know that your 4 has to go in for r squared?
Ours. Well, I want the same equation. I want the same circle. I just want it translated. The radius of this circle is r squared is equal to 4. Can't write over there. So r squared is equal to 4. So r then is going to equal the square root of 4, which is 2.
Right.
And so when I rewrite my new one, this is r squared, which is 2 squared, which is 4. So in other words, this r squared and this r squared have to be the same number. Okay, Serena?
Do you do it differently in the original equation?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Do you do it differently when the original equation isn't so neat, like x minus 0 and y minus 0? Like, do you still just plug in the 7 and 3?
Oh. Well, you're saying, okay. You're saying I had an equation something like this?
Yeah.
Okay, I have something like that.
And then tells you to move it over a certain amount. Do you still
Okay, then no, it's not going to be quite the same. Because this center is where?
-1,
-1, +3, right? So -1, +3. So that's the center. If I move that one 7 left, instead of being 7 left, it's now, because it started at -1, it's going to go 7 left. It's going to be at -8 now, right? And if I go up 3 from already 3 up, I'm going to be up here at -8, 6. So yes, if I don't start at the origin, then I have to move from where I was at originally. So you're going to have to look at where that original center was, and then move it left or right, and up and down, however far it's set. And then realize where your quadrants or coordinates are going to be. Okay, good question. You see where they did that to you? All right. I'm just looking at the homework to see if they give you any that's not in. Yeah, they do. Let me pause for a second.
Yep.
All right, this is actually 62 out of the homework. And this is not at all in our standard form of the equation of a circle, is it?
So you just,
Remember, we want it to look like this,
yeah, you just factor it.
okay? If it factors, then that's great. I can factor. If it doesn't factor, then I have to look at completing the square. Okay? We're kind of lucky here that, do you see other y terms or just the y squared term?
Just the y squared.
So that means this is really y minus 0. Okay?
So this next one would be x plus 2.
Okay?
X plus 1.
X plus 1. It is x plus 1. This factors into x plus 1 times x plus 1. Looking at those three terms right there. 1 times 1 is 1, and this gives me 1x and 1x, which is 2x. Okay? It's possible and likely, let me glance down. Yeah, we're going to have to, on 64 at least, we're going to have to complete the square. And same in 63. Okay? After you've worked a while, I might show you one of those. All right. So anyway, where's my center now in this equation?
1, 0.
I heard a couple different options. I heard 1, 0 and negative 1, 0. What should it be?
Negative 1, 0.
Negative 1, 0.
These are always opposite of coordinates.
Right.
And then it'd
Yeah.
be the radius just 4.
So since that's a plus 1, it's really a minus a negative 1. So it's negative 1 and 0. Did we really have to write it this way with x minus or y minus 0?
No.
No. I did it to make sure you understood that that 0 is what goes there. Now what's my radius?
4.
See, you already fell for that mistake.
2.
R squared is 4. So R is going to equal the square root of 4, which is 2. Okay? So when I go to graph that, I need my center to be at negative 1, 0. I need to have a radius of 2. And you don't have this feature on your calculator or on your paper that allows you just to draw the circle. So what I would do is I would go negative 1, 0. And I go right 2, put a dot, go left 2, put a dot, go up 2, put a dot, and go down 2, put a dot, and then just do the best you can. Make a circle around that.
Are we supposed to
Okay.
graph them?
What's that?
Are we supposed to graph them?
If they ask you to graph them.
That's one
There's
beautiful
only
oval
the
you made.
0.7 to 34.
Okay. So when they ask you to graph them, you have to do that. I think there's 19 problems.
Wonder when you're gonna shake that, if it's one.
Yeah, 3 to 51, and then 63 and 64. Okay? All right.
What was it again?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was on this. It wasn't. It was on this. 3 to 51 by 3s, 63 and 64. 63 and 64, you have to complete the square to get your quantity squareds.
Do you want us to do the second one, please?
That's part of the calendar today.
Okay.
Does that check quite with 2 and 1?